And hi again, everybody. Welcome back to Sports Talk. Doug Miles, Don Henderson with you as we come to you again live on a Monday night. I'm in Sarasota, Don up in New Jersey, but that doesn't mean there's not a lot to talk about in the world of sports. We both watch the games, and we got a lot to talk about. A lot of football, some baseball, some golf. Tiger back in the winning way. But Don, I'm going to let you introduce our guest. He's been with us several times before. Always great to have him with us.
Well, we always have Billy Werndl when things come down to the breaking point. And Billy, before we talk baseball, I know we're going to talk a little bit about the Phils, but tell us about Vanderbilt yesterday. I'd seen Vanderbilt play the week before. You worked that game in Memphis. What happened to Vanderbilt this week?
Well, it was actually Nashville, Don, but they played South Carolina, and South Carolina is one of the better teams in the SEC. I'm not saying they're on a level with Alabama or Auburn or LSU, but they're one of the better teams. And Vanderbilt is a school that basically is, an academic institution. Very tough for them to compete with the big dogs in the Southeast Conference. I mean, the Notre Dame game, they gave Notre Dame everything it could handle, and you'd think that they would be primed and ready to go against South Carolina, and they were far from that. I mean, South Carolina just took it to them, and it was a disappointing loss, especially in front of all the Vanderbilt fans. Now, they don't fill up a 39,000 seat stadium, and there's kind of a lot of apathy on the campus. I would think with an SEC opponent that should be rocking and rolling. Well, I think there were more South Carolina fans there than Vanderbilt fans.
Well, I agree. The week before with Notre Dame, they played well above their expectations, and Billy, they were just so built up for that one game that they leveled off after they lost the game in a very close situation and just couldn't build back up for this week.
That's a good point, Don. But again, you're playing an SEC opponent, and
right.
It's one thing if you're playing Louisiana Tech or one of those schools and you have a little bit of a letdown. But if you want to make a statement in the SEC, you got to beat a team like a South Carolina. I know it's impossible to beat the likes of Alabama and Georgia. I mentioned Auburn and LSU. But teams that are probably out of the top 25 are teams you have to beat, especially at home.
Well, let's turn our attention toward the baseball front because you and I have chatted many times on your show. Billy, of course, does a show Monday through Friday in Philadelphia, which is also, Bill, maybe tell them a little bit about they can get you either on the air or they can get you on your iPod. They can get you on almost everything.
Yeah. WCHE1520.com, Monday through Thursday, 2 to 3. And on Friday, I'm on with Paul Jolovitz on Merle Station, WBCB. And you can go to listen line. I mean, it's much easier to go on the Internet and to download the show because the signal is not real powerful. And we've had a lot of people throughout the country. They picked up the show, and they really like it. I mean, it's guest-driven. And I think that's very, very important because people want to hear what the likes of Larry Boa or Wade Phillips has to say. I mean, they like those type of shows. I think you just have people calling in and ranting and raving about they should have done this, they should have done that. I mean, that's not my MO at this point in my career. I want to get information out to people and let them make their own decisions.
Well, they get great success. And the other comment before I let Doug get in is that when you mentioned Merle, you and I and Doug, of course, know, and a lot of people across the country, just from the first name Merle, would know. But Merle Reese has been doing the Philadelphia Eagles for so many years. You've worked with them for how many years have you worked with them now in the Eagle games?
Well, I worked with Merle when he first started out, when, of course, the late Charlie Swift had committed suicide. And I worked with Merle for 5 or 6 years, and then I moved on to CBS and then to TBS. And then later on with ESPN. I've been with ESPN for close to 30 years doing college football, mostly with Ron Franklin, Lake Godfrey, and the gang. But now I'm back working with Merle. I've worked with him the last 4 seasons, I believe, basically the home games, a few selected road games. So it's been a lot of fun. I enjoy working with Merle because 42 years and counting and still very strong behind the mic.
Well, the one thing we talked about a few times on your show, the last couple of times I was on with you, we talked about the Phillies, and I have to say you were 100% correct. I was 100% incorrect. I did not think the Phillies were going to become a dying swan the last 3 weeks of the season. You thought that all along, and here, lo and behold, they just weren't able to finish out the year.
Don, you know what was most disappointing? Last year, they finished on an upbeat, and then they replaced Pete McCannon because he was an old school thinker. He didn't buy into all the analytics and sabermetrics that they presented. And I think that's unfortunate because I thought the Phillies were on an upswing. And I know that they're not going to compete with the Dodgers or the Cubs or teams of that magnitude. But I thought they'd be able to be around 500. The one disappointing thing, they're in first place on July 31st. Since that point, they imploded. You got to show progress, not regression, as they've shown it this year. I mean, I don't think you can take many positives away from a club that's losing series to the Mets, to the Padres, bad teams. Now, it's one thing if you split with the Atlanta Braves. It's another thing if you split with the Dodgers or the Cubs. But when you do not beat up on the weak sisters in baseball, that is an indictment of the franchise. I mean, you've got to be over 700 baseball against bad teams.
Getting back to the Phillies, as you mentioned, 500. They're one game over 500 going into tonight's play, but they have just Arrieta and Nola just haven't been able to do it coming down the stretch.
No, Nola's a young pitcher. He had a very successful year. Arrieta is not the pitcher he once was in Chicago, but he's a veteran. But the big mistake they made was not going out and getting another veteran. They thought they had a legitimate shot at the postseason. And not getting Cole Hamels for a bag of balls was a calculated mistake by Matt Klentak and the analytical people. I mean, this club needed a veteran pitcher, but the back on the rotation was rather questionable. And I was very, very disappointed that Matt Klentak and his band of analytical people did not pull the trigger.
Doug, let's get you in the conversation. Go to it.
I was going to say, yeah, Bill, good to talk with you again. We had a little phone glitch there, but I think we picked it up again. But I was going to mention, Don and I saw the Phillies come down to Sarasota when they played the Orioles in spring training. We had a little bit of opportunity to see the manager there, and Kapler, he got off to the terrible start, making some rookie mistakes. Then they got it on track for a while, but a disappointing finish, like you said. And you've seen a little bit with Aaron Boone in New York, even though they have a great record, but similar types of mistakes early on. What do you think of his job performance, and what do the fans feel up there? That's more important.
Well, the key thing with Gabe Kapler, I mean, look, I'm going to give him a hall pass for his rookie year. All right, every young manager makes mistakes, whether he's 50 or 29 or 40. I mean, every young manager makes mistakes. I mean, this is the big leagues. This is not little league or minor leagues. But I just look. I hope he changes his approach. I mean, having guys play multiple positions. They say, well, look at the Astros. Look at the Cubs. Well, they've won world championships. This team's got to build a foundation. If you look at the Phillies right now, up the middle, questionable center fielder. He's okay. He's not a great center fielder. Shortstop is still wide open. Second base, are they going to go with a young kid Kingery and let Cesar Hernandez be involved in a trade? And behind the plate, Alfaro has some defensive liabilities, and he is a strikeout machine at the plate. So, I mean...
Especially in the outfield, Billy. Alfaro has a lot of trouble in left field.
Well, Alfaro is a catcher, and, he's got to work on his skills and become a good catcher behind the plate. I mean, you just look at, they're playing Santana at first and third base. There was a waste of money signing Santana. $60 million. You have a Reese Hoskins who is a natural first baseman, should be playing first base, and they decide to bring Santana in and move Hoskins out because they think he is a good athlete. But I think that young kids have to have a comfort level with their position. And I think he really struggled this year. I mean, he got off to a great start. He had over 30 home runs this year so far. I mean, he's played well. And the other thing is they concentrate so much on taking pitches. And Don and you guys all know the first or second pitch at any at bat may be the best pitch you see. And this stuff about working the count, ridiculous. As I said, I'm not saying you swing for bad pitches, but if you see a cookie coming right down the middle, you got to swing. But they subscribe to this theory. We're going to work the count so we can drive the pitchers out of the ball game. Well, a lot of times that'll backfire on you, unless you have a team in which you can put, multiple runs on the board on a regular basis. And the Phillies do not have that type of team. Doug?
On the other side of that coin, though, and Don, you know this as well. You follow the Rays, even though you're up there for a lot of the summer. The rookie manager with them, Cash, has done a tremendous job. I mean, could have 90 wins, and they had a pitcher yesterday, that Blake Snell, that won his 21st game. So, if you're a Rays fan, you're looking optimistic, even though there are not too many of them down here. But that's a rookie manager, not a rookie manager, but a young manager that's done a great job.
I'll tell you got a guy from up here in Westchester, Pennsylvania, attended Westchester University. A key component to that team, Joey Wendell. He is one heck of a player. Is hitting 300 on the season, plays second, short, and plays the outfield. But I just had him on the radio the other day. He's a very even-tempered young man. He said, look, whatever they want me to play, I can play. But that's his psyche. I mean, he knows that the battle to get to the big leagues, he had to play multiple positions. And you have a young kid like Kingery, who is a second baseman by trade. That's very difficult to throw him in left field or shortstop, the whole deal. I think you have to really read the psyche of a player, and not every player has that type of makeup.
I know you're big on Machado coming to Philadelphia. You want to see some hitters and somebody that can get the ball out of the ballpark, but let's go back to what you're talking about, managers, for just a second, because Socha is one of the ones that's been one of the biggest disappointments to me. Springfield, Delaware County, we've seen him for a long time. We saw him with the Dodgers. We've seen him for a long time. Maybe the longest manager right now.
19 years with the Angels. 19.
Yeah. But Billy, he just, and they've gotten a lot of players for him, but he just can't win.
Now, I think sometimes there's a shelf life for managers, okay? And I know that there's a turnover on rosters and all. And I think Mike is kind of a little bit worn out, the whole deal in Los Angeles with Anaheim. I just think it's time for Mike to be moved upstairs. He did an incredible job. He got them a World Series. He's done a lot of great things for the Angels. But sometimes you got to turn the page and look forward. And I think, they went out and got the one problem when you keep plugging in free agents, a lot of times this is their final contract. So are they that committed? Look at Pujols. He gave him a 10-year deal.
Oh.
Come on. And he's had injuries. I know he was
terrible.
A great player.
Terrible.
You can't continually do that. So you got to be very, very judicious in your evaluation of players and say, is this guy going to be here? Look, when a guy reaches 33, 34 in any sport, his skills start to diminish. There's very few exceptions. Yeah, David Ortiz was an exception to the rule. But there's not many players like that. Tom Brady's an exception to the rule. Not many guys are like. I say, hey, I'll give you $100 million for 5 years. That's all I'm going to do. Because they knew Pujols was, you can't give a guy like that 10 years. He'll be 39 years old when the contract expires. And that really ties you up. And the other thing is, the most important thing in any sport is player development. And the Angels have not done a great job of developing players. And that is so important. You got to keep replenishing the players on the major league level with players that are pushing guys. And that's why, when Branch Rickey was the general manager of the Cardinals, he had all those farm system, all those minor league teams, and then he went to the Dodgers, and he believed in, hey, you can't fall in love with a player because you got to replace him someday. and he was always churning out new talent. That's what you need. The most important position in any organization across the board is a player personnel director who has a good feel for young talent.
I know Doug and I want to get to football for a little bit, Billy, and we don't hold you on the line too long. But before I let you go with the baseball, let me just throw this at you. The Phillies have an awful lot of money to spend in the offseason. Harper, Machado, as we just talked about a second ago. I don't know who else is going to be out there that would be beneficial to the Phillies. Do you think they're going to spend them? I know you like to see Trout come to Philadelphia. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I don't think LA is going to ever let him go, but you never know. Give me your thoughts on who is going to be out there you think the Phils could really get some help with.
Well, the two big names are Machado and Harper, all right? But, again, Scott Boras has a way of having teams bid against themselves. And he's done that many, many times. And he has Bryce Harper. And you know he's very, very cognizant of making teams bid against themselves. You know, Don, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be, you have to convince these players. I know the bottom line is the money. You got to convince these players you got a legitimate shot at the World Series within 2 years. Do you believe, when they look at what the Phillies did down the stretch, that a Harper and a Machado is going to say, wow, now this team is only a player or two away, and maybe a minor league player or two coming in here? That's what the player is going to ask himself when he has an opportunity to stay with the Dodgers, Machado. Even Bryce Harper in Washington. They've got a lot of talent. They were just beset with injuries. But they have a lot of talent. Then you have the Cubs, the Yankees, the Red Sox. You've got a bundle of teams out there.
Yeah, but Billy, can they afford another big? I mean, those teams. I agree with you. But they have spent so much money. You know, the Red Sox are the highest-paying team in baseball, and the Cubs are right behind them. They can't afford to go out and get another player for, you know,
but Don,
how many?
They can also move one of their players.
Right.
They could make a trade for one of their guys, and free up some money. And Theo Epstein is a friend of mine. He's a very sharp guy as far as player evaluation, and he might be able to move somebody that somebody may be salivating over. So
he better move a lot of money if he's going to sign one of those guys. Doug, let me get you on before we get into it.
I tell you, teams like the Dodgers and the Cubs and the Yankees and the Red Sox, they'll tell you they worry about the luxury tax. But if they can win a World Series, do you think they worry about that? Do you really think they worry about that? I don't think so. If they believe they can move this player and bring... Now, they have to be convinced. And they know how Boras operates. They know how the other agents operate. So, I mean, yeah, the Phillies, it looks like they have a clear field to land one of these guys, or both of these guys. But Bryce Harper was in Washington. They're third in the division. Third. Machado was in Baltimore. And they're the worst team in baseball. He goes to the Dodgers. He really revitalized the Dodgers at shortstop. Dodgers have an interesting situation with Machado. Seager's coming back from that injury. What do you do? Does Machado play short, or does Seager play short, or do they flip-flop positions? That's
well, they have to move Turner off third base and put Machado. For my money, Machado is the best third baseman in baseball, but he wanted to play shortstop, and he was happy to go there when the Dodgers, made the contract and the deal with the Baltimore Orioles.
And you know what? They didn't. The Dodgers didn't overpay for Machado. They got the ninth top prospect. I mean, if the Phillies were really interested, then they've got to offer maybe one of their top 3 or 4 prospects for Machado, because that's what they are, prospects at best.
Doug?
Bill Werndl joining us from WCHE Radio up in the Philadelphia area, and again we're talking some baseball. Let's kind of talk a little football, Bill, while we got you on the line. And a week ago we had You were down in this area with the Bucks, who have taken this area by storm, and maybe part of the country that follow the Bucks, with, of course, Fitzpatrick getting a lot of press. And as we talk tonight, guys, there's a game going to be a little bit north of us in Tampa. Again, Pittsburgh's in town, but what do you make of the Bucks? You saw that game.
I'll tell you, I was there. I was very impressed with the Bucks and Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick has been a journeyman quarterback, been a backup quarterback. But he has some weapons. He's got Mike Evans. He has Deshaun Jackson, O.J. Howard. It's like a smorgasbord of offensive weapons. He has pretty good running attack with Peyton Barber and company. I mean, they have a lot of things they can do. And their defense is playing pretty solid for them. And, this is without Jameis Winston. This is going to be interesting. If he wins tonight, and you remember, Jameis Winston is coming off the suspension after tonight's game. What do the Bucs do? Fitzpatrick's a 14-year veteran in the NFL. Jameis Winston is the franchise. What does this team do going forward?
They said that we're not going to make a move, and some of these wide receivers, Jackson being one of them, is very outspoken. He said, "There's no way, that you can make this move if we continue to play the way we're playing." So
absolutely not.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's absolutely right. When Fitzpatrick goes back to being Fitzpatrick, but hey, he's got an offensive line that protects him. As you said, a plethora of outside receivers. He's got everything to continue to play extremely well. Now, not at the level he played the first 3 games, but there's no reason he can't continue to play like he is capable of playing.
Absolutely. Right now, he's got my vote for MVP in the NFL. To be honest with you, for Pat Mahomes in Kansas City may make a case as well because he's off to a great start, the second-year quarterback. Fitzpatrick, everybody thought, this is a guy at backup. What's he going to do with the Buccaneers? But I agree with Deshaun Jackson. If they continue to win, you don't shake the apple cart. And if they're playing at a high level, you got to keep going with a hot hand.
Doug?
Don, I'll let you wrap it up.
Well, Billy, let's talk about this past week because Foles, I thought, did a very, very good job. Didn't have the talent around him that he had at the end of last year. There were still some things to get back in order. But Wentz came in and played like when you never know that he was ever hurt. I mean, he ran the football. He made that first down when he dove out on the sidelines there on the left side. You saw him firsthand, and would you ever know that Wentz missed a step? I mean, it didn't look like it to me.
Well, no, I think his timing was off. And remember, they're missing Alshon Jeffrey, who's a key component there. And also Darren Sproles. Now, Sproles was not part of the Super Bowl team. He was injured early in the season last year. But I think Wentz, I would grade Wentz at a B. I mean, he missed a couple of targets. I mean, a couple of turnovers. I mean, he's got to get his sea legs under him. But I think all in all, he played pretty well. Now, this week in Tennessee will be a very stiff test. They got a pretty good defense. Look what they did with Jacksonville yesterday. They beat Jacksonville in Jacksonville. So It's not going to be a walk in the park, the Eagles going down to Tennessee. I mean, remember, the Eagles are no longer hunting. They're the hunted. All right? So the bullseye is on their back in every stadium they walk into because a team wants to upset them in the worst way. So they're being hunted by the NFL this year. They're the defending Super Bowl champs, and people want a chunk out of them.
Well, I'll tell you, I thought Jacksonville, I really love that ball club. I think they're going to be, I was amazed yesterday. I mean, what was it, 9-6? Or I think it was 9-6.
I thought it was a baseball score. I thought they played extra innings. But, again, they have a lot of talent. They got a lot of talent offensively and defensively. They got everything you want. I mean, last year, if Marone was not so conservative, they probably beat New England. But, of course, he was a little bit too conservative, and they lost to New England. I mean, with New England, any team like that, you got to give them your best shot, and you have to be a little bit of a riverboat gambler. But I agree with you, Don. They've got a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. They are loaded.
A team that doesn't have a lot of talent, and that is New England. Boy, I looked at that game last night. I mean, did that resemble anything that Bill Belichick ever put on the field?
No, I mean, they played two-hand touch on defense. They were horrible on defense. Mistakes. Offensive line play was subpar. I mean, maybe this is the time that the Belichick and Brady era is coming to a close. You know,
right.
You can't last forever. And, you know, there was a lot of talk last year. He wanted to keep Garoppolo. Of course, Garoppolo gets down with an injury yesterday. But maybe this is time, the changing of the guard in New England, maybe they're going to take a few steps backwards.
Billy, I agree with you. Billy, thank you so much. Sorry we had the little interruption midway through.
Honey,
always a pleasure
about that, Doug. Never worry about that. I'm always available for you guys. Thank you.
Always look forward to having you on. Doug, one final word?
Thank you, Billy. Always great talking to you. You're the second busiest man in sportscasting next to Don Henderson.
Don Henderson, he keeps on trucking, my boy.
Thanks a lot, Billy. We'll get together soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Billy. And Don, just quickly before we go, you were talking college football. I think I went to the dullest game of the weekend. You saw all the good ones on TV. I was at USF. That was the most boring game that USF happened to win against Eastern Carolina.
Well, I'll tell you, this weekend is one, I didn't get a chance to talk to Billy about this. With so many other things to chat about. This weekend is going to be terrific. I mean, Ohio State, Penn State, and by the way, you got two Saturday night games are going to be competing each other. Two of the best games maybe of the year. So I'm really looking forward to Penn State and Ohio State, to be honest. I don't know whether Penn State's a faker or whether they're real. They're 4-0, and they're ranked number 6. But they really haven't beaten anybody, of any nature. And so it's going to be interesting to see what they do when they go up against Ohio State, because, they're going to be fit to be tied coming into Happy Valley.
Our friend Jeffrey Payne, I texted him and emailed him over the weekend. They're having a tough time with the new coach, Scott Frost. Of course, he came from UCF right here in Orlando, undefeated last year, and now he said, talking about the coach now, said, I think we've hit rock bottom. They lost again over the weekend. So we'll get Jeff on, talk a little hockey and football, but he's not happy out there at Nebraska.
Yeah, but if you remember, that's exactly what happened at University of Central Florida.
Right.
First year he was there, they were, I don't think they won a game, did they? The first year?
They came off the George O'Leary era, right? They were terrible.
Right. Yeah, and by the time he left, they were, nationally ranked. So.
But you don't expect a team like Nebraska, though, to be that bad. They're kind of mediocre, but not terrible. So I think that's
they've been bad for a long time. I mean, we're going to go 10 years now that they've been bad.
Yeah, right. But anyway, we'll talk to him about that. But yeah, great college football over the weekend. Driving home, I didn't hear the end of it. I just heard they talking about it on the Sports Talk, the Stanford-Oregon finish. That was a wild one.
Let me tell you, I'll get to that in 1 second. Let me go back and talk about the other half of that doubleheader. And it's Stanford and Notre Dame. And I don't know if you did you see any of the Stanford game last against Oregon?
No, I came out in the car after the game, and then they were talking about it I flipped on the Sports Talk just to see what was going on, and they were talking about the wild finish. So.
Unbelievable!
Yeah.
I mean, how these coaches? Boy, I wish Billy were still on. We could talk about that a little bit, because how these coaches can be this stupid, I don't understand it. I mean, Oregon's got the game won. They're up by 10 points with a little over 4 minutes to go. They've got the game won with 45 seconds to go. All they have to do is kneel down. They don't have to do anything. Just kneel down 3 times, run out the clock, and the game's over. They win.
Yeah. Yeah.
But instead of kneeling down, he hands the ball off, fumble. Stanford goes down and scores. And, you couldn't believe it. You couldn't make this up about how stupid these guys are.
I was going to say before that game, because Oregon got off to the good start in the year, Willie Taggart probably wishes he was still there, but maybe not after that game. They won over the weekend, but a game they should have won, obviously, against Northern Illinois. But, again, jury's still out on Willie's team right now, too.
Florida State, yeah, they're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But interesting thing about that, of course, Herm Edwards. Billy loves to talk about Herm too because he has the most famous play in Eagle history, I think. When he picked up that Pisarcik fumble and ran it in for a touchdown against the Giants with no time remaining. Exactly the same thing. Pisarcik and the Giants didn't kneel down. They handed the ball off.
Right.
They fumbled it. Herm Edwards picked it up, ran for a touchdown. Game over. Eagles beat the Giants. Same idea as this game I'm talking about out there between Oregon and Stanford. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But anyway, Stanford plays Notre Dame this week, and we'll see. They're going to have to play a lot better than they played against Oregon because I'll tell you, realistically they should have lost the game on any number of fronts, but they didn't. But we'll see what happens. But I'm looking forward to the weekend, but more the Penn State game because I've been around Penn State for such a long period of time, and so I'll be interested to see how that game goes.
Yeah, no USF game. They're on a bye week, so I'll try and catch some of those games next week too. But
who does Charlie play next?
They got a week off, then they play up at UMass in 2 weeks. So it's a game they should win easily, but they have not played well the last 2 weeks. So
UMass, that's another win. UMass is not very good.
It should be, but they should have beaten ECU easier than they did too. They were favored by 21 going into that game Saturday. So they only won by 7.
Well, Army was only, a 7-point underdog or whatever this weekend. There are a lot of upsets.
Oh, yeah.
Boy. Games you could never believe. The Buffalo Bills, they couldn't do anything, right? They go, they go to Minnesota and they win. Yeah. Unbelievable.
And they talked about it in New England. The former assistant gets a win against his mentor, right? Patricia.
Yeah.
But they were ready to run Patricia out of town the first 2 weeks of the season. In Detroit, right? Now he's a hero.
Yeah, they in all honesty, they played a very good game last night against New England. I'm saying, I just can't imagine it. I watched the post-game shows where Belichick came on and he used.
Did he say anything?
He gave us usual answers. You saw it. I mean, we didn't do anything well. We need to go back tomorrow and get back to work. No phase of the game, offense, defense, coaching, special teams. Nothing was ready to play.
No. I just wondered if, like, in a tough loss like that, but even when they lose, he doesn't give you anything different. It's the same demeanor. No. You know? Maybe a little more furrowed brow, but that's about it.
He did come along. He did do the post game, which is mandatory in the league. You have to do the post game shows,
do that, right?
So he did that, and then of course Brady came on for quite a long time after later on in the post game activities. He came on and talked about his performance and the team's performance, and basically he follows the lead of the coach. And we have a lot of things to work on this week, a lot of mistakes and so forth and so on. Doesn't really say anything, but they just looked so bad last night. It was just hard to believe that a Belichick team could be that bad at every phase.
Well, they're like the Yankees. Unless you live in New England, everybody else is glad that they lose. So a lot of people around the country are happy.
No question about that. No, they can't wait for New England to lose. The only break they get is they're in the AFC East, and the AFC East.
Yeah, they got to catch Miami now, right? Yeah, undefeated.
Yep, they're 3-0.
Yeah.
Yep, they play them. I think they play them this week.
They still have the 2 games with them, right? So they got 2 games with them.
Yeah.
So they have to win them now.
Yeah, and I think the one this weekend. I don't have the schedule from it. I think the one this weekend is in New England.
I didn't see the schedule either. Okay.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they play. Miami goes to New England, I think, this weekend. So we'll see what develops. And of course, the other big story that we didn't touch on baseball-wise was Didi. Still a big question mark. Well, one thing about that, I'd like you to comment on it. That how many times and how many games have we heard the managers, the coaches, everybody talk about sliding in feet first? He slides in head first, rips the tendons. I mean, it wasn't even a close play. I mean, when you look at it's incredible that you can get hurt like that.
Well, I always thought, they always said that when you sliding head first, you might get banged in the head with the glove or something, but it's safer than sliding feet first, but obviously not over the weekend.
No. You jam a finger, break a finger, 9 times out of 10 they'll tear the tendon in their thumb.
Right. It's usually handy. You get more injuries that way. It used to be the other way. You'd bang up your feet and all that, sliding feet first.
Well, before the new rule, they slide in head first into the catcher. The catcher's got all that equipment on, and they have nothing.
No.
Now at least the catcher has to give an alleyway, which Didi had. I mean, he had room.
Right.
And even look at the still pictures in the papers. If you didn't have a chance to see the game, I mean, he's all by himself. He's got his left hand out there.
Right.
And it's you didn't need to do that. It was not the way to do it. I mean, but they don't listen. They're crazy.
I have absolutely no confidence that the Yankees are going to win that game, whether it be home or in Oakland. I don't think any Yankee fan does. It just doesn't feel like a 95 or 100 win team. Doesn't have that feel.
Well, the other thing is that they got a break playing in your backyard tonight. In fact, I have the picture on. I don't have the sound though, but I have the picture on it. And
4 games in Tampa. Right.
Yeah, but Cash decided to pitch his ace yesterday. He got his 21st win, as you talked about when Billy was on. And he didn't hold him out to pitch against the Yankees tonight. But I think that the loss the A's took yesterday was 5-1, I believe the final score was. And the Yankees, of course, lost as well. So it's a game and a half differential for the home field advantage. But I think that game last night or yesterday afternoon with the A's losing, I think that's going to be a heartbreaker. But we'll see how the Yankees do in Tampa. They haven't done very well this year.
No, and Rays have a chance to get 90 wins or more. They stay hot.
I'll tell you, the Braves, they closed. They really did. A young team like that, everybody thought, well, they were going to have a difficult time closing, but they did just the opposite of the Phillies. The Phillies just died. They couldn't close, and the Braves won the National League East in a walk. It was a game and a half either way for Philadelphia in first place, Braves in first place.
Yeah.
But it winds up the Braves winning in a walk.
Yeah. And I think going into the weekend, the Rays had the same record as the Cleveland Indians, but they're stuck in the AL East, so it didn't help them.
Right. So,
and quickly before we wrap
your
up,
guess is as good as mine. The only thing, the A's do not have a great record in playoffs.
Not since the 70s or early 80s.
No, they haven't done too well in the playoffs, and so it's going to be interesting to see exactly what turn. How they do it, whether the Yankees hold on, and then of course they have to make the decision of who's going to pitch the wild card game, and
Happ seems to be the name I saw in the paper yesterday.
Yeah. I think he's the leader. I agree with you. I think he's the leader. Everybody's sort of speculating. He threw 100-some pitches yesterday in 5 innings. He went out of the game leading 2-0, but the Yankees wound up losing the game. But it's the worst game he's pitched. I think he's pitched 10 games. He's won 6 of them.
Yeah.
He hadn't lost any. But he threw 107 pitches yesterday in 5 innings. And 105 or 107, something like that.
Yeah, rest him up. And quickly before we go, we won't spend any time on it, but I'm not a big Tiger fan, but I got to give him credit for that win yesterday, coming back from the surgeries and all that. So apparently the fans were going nuts there. I didn't see any of it, but I saw the picture online about the galleries. Unbelievable.
Oh, I'll tell you, it was really amazing. No question about it. I can't remember when I've ever seen a golf tournament where they had that kind of. I mean, it was almost impossible.
Like Arnie in the heyday, right? Arnie back in the 60s.
Yeah, I mean, they're coming up the fairway in waves for that 18th hole.
Yeah,
and it was terrific. I'm not a great Tiger fan. I always thought he was the best golfer of all time, but I'm not necessarily a Tiger fan.
Nope.
But I got to give it to him, boy. As you said, with all 4 operations and all the troubles he's been through, to come back and win. As they said this afternoon, Francesco on the fan, it was sort of anticlimactic when he wins the tournament, and yet Rose wins the $10 million. The presentation was sort of stilted a little bit because, even though Tiger won, he was really the second there, and even
it's a cumulative kind of scoring. So he didn't win.
Justin Rose even said, almost like I'm apologizing for winning, and the way it's compiled, you're right, and he won because of the number of wins and so forth during the season, and in all the tournaments. So he did win. So you got Tiger winning the tournament, but taking a very small prize, and you got Justin Rose with this big trophy. It sort of made it a little anticlimactic, but
he'll make it up in that match thing against Phil, right? Isn't that for $10 million?
Yeah. No, I think that's only $1 million.
Oh, I thought it was 10 they were playing for, that pay-per-view thing in November.
Yeah, I don't think it's that much. I think it's $1 million.
All right.
First of all,
nobody's going to pay for that. I don't.
Whoever came out and said if there was their $1 million they were playing for, I might watch it. But it's not their $1 million. No. They're just playing for $1 million that sponsors put up. So who cares who wins?
No. At this point, it's just a money grab. But you get the Ryder Cup in next week, right? Is Ryder Cup next week?
This weekend. Yeah. Well, one thing about that, Mickelson could bet against himself and make a lot of money.
That's it. I don't think that'll be the first time he's done that, but who knows? At least in the stock market, right? Didn't he do that in the stock market? Wasn't that the allegation? We're saying allegedly.
That was one of many things.
Yeah, allegedly, but who knows?
Yeah. But as you say, congratulations to Tiger. It was a long.
I got to give him credit. I mean, I'm not, like you said, I'm not very hard to like the guy, but from coming back, what he came back from, and particularly, he had the DWI less than a year ago, right, with the painkillers, and to come back from that and be able to win, I mean, give him credit.
Yeah, everything he did was you got to give him all the credit in the world. It's magnificent, and as I say, in my view. And I've seen everybody. It's not like I haven't seen Nicklaus play, and I haven't seen Palmer play, and I haven't seen all these guys play. I mean, really, the guy's in a class by himself. He's the greatest golfer of all time. Yeah. But, I'm just not a great fan.
No, hard to like. But anyway, thanks again to Billy Werndl. You can hear him again, WCHE Radio. Check it out, WCHE Radio.com if you want to listen to him online. Great sports talk host. And Don, we'll do it again next week. Talk a little Ryder Cup.
You got it, partner. Take care.
Thanks for listening, everybody.